Karthik graduated in 2005, he found that no one could give him a job. Ashwin has a form of cerebral palsy accompanied by quadriplegia and uses a wheelchair. Being turned down for a job is a common rejection that people face, but in Ashwin's case, he attended an astounding 45 unsuccessful job interviews. He did get the job. In fact, he is India's first computer engineer with cerebral palsy. Why, despite the merit, is it so difficult for people with disabilities to find jobs? And how can we change these dismal employment rates? This is Samarth by Hyundai in partnership with NDTV, and joining us today on the show to talk about breaking barriers with a workplace revolution is Ashwin Karthik himself. He is now Advisor, Engineering Project Management, Dell Technologies. He's also a poet and a published author. Joining us in studio is Madhubala Sharma, Senior Program Manager, Inclusive Experiences and Technologies, Amazon. Madhubala has been living with 100% blindness since birth, but she strives to find solutions for independent living. She's also recipient of the Role Model Award felicitated by the President of India. We also have with us today Shalini Khanna, Chairperson, Skill Council for Persons with Disabilities, Honorary Secretary, Director, NAB India, Centre for Blind Women and Disability Studies, who has also been awarded Top 75 Women Transforming India by NITI Aayog. Well, thank you so much, Ashwin, Shalini and Madhu, for joining us today on this very critical conversation. Ashwin, I would like to begin with you here. Well, it's quite a story. The irony, of course, is that you have got the President's Award for the Best Employee in 2013. You attended 45 unsuccessful job interviews before getting your first job. Tell us and our viewers, what was different in the 46th interview?
Well, to first begin with, Ambika, thank you for the opportunity to be on this show. And to your question, what was different in the 46th interview was for two things. First was in all those 45 interviews which you mentioned, I saw them as an opportunity to learn and improve myself, and I believed that I needed only one opportunity to prove my skills. The other thing, and more importantly, was that in my 46th interview, I was chosen by a very strong organization working towards the empowerment and inclusive hiring called Enable India in Bangalore. They were able to sensitize the organization before the interview happened, and the organization also took a lot of effort to sensitize themselves and know what were the assistive solutions that a person like me would need to perform at the best of my capabilities. So these were the most important factors that led to my first job.
Thank you for sharing that, Ashwin, and definitely we can see there's no looking back and how well you're doing. Just heard, Ashwin struggle, or he took it as an opportunity and how he's moved on. What was your experience like? That's the first part of the question. And secondly, I want to know, you have an experience of 21 years in the space of leadership development when it comes to, diversity, inclusion. Is the needle really moving when it comes to hiring persons with disabilities?
I think, so first of all, thank you so much for this opportunity, and it's absolutely a delight to share the stage with Ashwin and Shalini ma'am, as I fondly call her. My experience over the years has been a very interesting one, a roller coaster ride, and an opportunity to bring about changes as well. So I would say needle definitely is moving. There are definitely a lot of steps that we as people with disabilities also need to take up. I have been an entrepreneur at heart since childhood. I've loved selling. I've done selling of cosmetics. I've done selling of stuff like gas lighters. People would say that, hey, being a person who's blind, how would you sell lipsticks? And I've done that. And then I have worked as a software professional. I've been a tester, tested JAWS, that is a screen reader that's used by people who are blind like myself. And I've also trained people on voice and accent skills, soft skills, then leadership development, how to be an inclusive leader, and now in the space of diversity and inclusion. Getting these jobs has been an easy and yet difficult at the same time. Easy because there have been advocates for me, advocates and allies like, people who work in the hiring spaces, helping people with disabilities get jobs. So they have been my advocates, and difficult because each time when I go for a job, I really need to prove myself. Unlike any non-disabled individual, you would go, appear for the interview, you'd be looked at for your skill sets. But being a person with disability, before the skill sets, the first question is, how will you do this because you're blind? Or will you be able to do that because you're blind? Disability is seen before the skill sets. Yeah. That's why it's been a difficult one. And I remember this one place where I appeared for an interview and I got till the final round. And I got to know from the consultant that, hey, they would love to give you a job. Could you have an exact profile like yours who we could look at, but not you, because, they're not ready to hire someone who's blind as yet. They're culturally not ready. Their workforce is not ready yet. And hence, we can't give you that opportunity. So that, and then Amazon. Amazon happened to me not through a special job drive for people with disabilities. I looked up on LinkedIn and applied through a referral program, got through the regular loops of interviewing, and then got to Amazon. So that's been my journey so far.
Well, what an inspiring journey, Ashwin's and then yours. We've just heard them talk. It's the doubt which always comes in the mind of the employer. They don't look at the skill set, but they look at the disability. What does the Rights of Persons with Disability Act, what does the mandate say when it comes to employment, and why isn't it being implemented more rigorously in our country?
Well, the Rights Act says everybody has to adopt accessibility now as a mandate. In fact, the government has reservations, of course, in their whole, across the board, and you can now see IAS and IFS officers who are disabled, who are persons with disabilities. But in the corporate, accessibility is the mandate because it's turning digital by every minute, and it is already digital across the world now. The problem is that particular accessibility, the digital accessibility, has not been really adapted. And especially when it comes to people with visual impairment, the digital accessibility is what matters at the end of the day. I feel the right strictness has to be adopted on the government's part, and somewhere that is only going to really push the corporates around and the whole employment world around. Yeah. The MSME sector or the smaller sector, I feel, is more adaptable, and it's faster adapting. It definitely looks at skills once it is convinced. It definitely gives them a trial. Yeah. So you will see more entrepreneurs than the big corporate world.
Sector,
yes,
yeah.
Absolutely.
So a lot more needs to be done
yes.
on that. Ashwin, in your experience, what are the most common barriers that persons with disabilities face when seeking employment, and how can these be addressed?
To put that in perspective, most importantly, it is the mindset of the employer. It is a two-way traffic. The employee and the employer both need to come with an open mind. The employee has to, be open to learning, and in terms of the employer, they have to be accepting, they have to be sensitive enough, and also be able to create the assistive solutions that are required for the employee to perform at his or her best capabilities.
Absolutely. I think that's really well put, Ashwin. Thank you for that. Shalini, if I can ask you, you have spearheaded, many campaigns, many initiatives, like you have the Blind Bake Cafe, there's Ujjwala, where you're, the tactile medical examiners. Well, this has not only helped in providing employment, but also raised awareness when it comes to, persons with disability, that what they can do. I mean, it's proven that. When we talk about the skill training program, how can it be made more market linked? Rather than just thinking that it's for the persons with disability, how can it be tailor-made?
I completely agree that this is the driving force. This should be the driving force, the business model. And when it comes to, say, handicrafts, for example, the Ujjwala part, I definitely feel the designing is a very, very important aspect, and the NGOs or the people with disabilities can't just say that because we have made something which looks nice, okay, or which appears beautiful, and the speciality is that it's been made by people with disabilities, it should sell. It will never sell at the end of the day to your profits or anything. You have to make it to survive in the market and to thrive in the market, to win in the market. The victory has to be top of the head sentiment. How can I win in the market and appeal to the people that is my target audience? You have to keep your target audience in your mind. So when it comes to even blind bake, it's the same thing. Does my cafe accept everyone? Does my cafe really cater to your needs? Is it fast enough? Are the women, the visually impaired women chefs, are they able to cook to the speed of the guests' expectations and the taste? And medical tactile examination, yes, the same thing. Are they able to cope up in the hospital scenarios? Are they able to cope up with the kind of pressures that the job requires?
You know, Madhu, if I can come to you here, Shalini has spoken about, you know, customization of this from the skilling perspective. If I can ask you from the hiring perspective, what are the tweaks that need to be made for hiring practices, expectations, and workplace roles that are required specifically for persons with disability?
Definitely. One, at the start, it may look like tweaks, but the outcome or the destiny needs to be inclusion. We need to reach that destination where whoever comes, if you have the skills, we have the job for you. That's our aim. And there are a lot of skilling initiatives that are in place, and we need more of such skilling initiatives where we make people with disabilities corporate ready for the workforce. A lot of the times we educate, I went through an inclusive education, but a lot of us disabled folks go through a special education system. And there remains a gap in the skill sets that may be required. We at Amazon have tie-ups with the government. We have a tie-up with an MOU with Skill Council of People with Disabilities, DEPD. We have tie-ups with multiple states as well, where we focus on skilling. And we have people with disabilities at Amazon working in delivery stations, in sort centers, in fulfillment centers, in various other corporate roles as well. In fact, in Mumbai, we have a silent delivery station managed by purely people who are deaf, deaf associates. We have a tie-up with Signable, where real-time sign language interpretation is available for our deaf associates. Making available technology for people like myself, the screen readers, software solution for those who are low vision, software solutions for those who are unable to speak but can, type, software solutions, so read aloud. Those kind of technical solutions are really, really helpful. And incorporating those as a part of a regular software solution, not because someone may need it, or when someone will need it, we will get it. Have it as a part of the infrastructure. That will be a big, big, big enablement.
So mindset, I think, and of course, putting in all these assisted technologies. Well, we'll take a really short break, but when we return, more on how we can break barriers in the workplace when it comes to hiring people with disabilities. Stay tuned for more on Samarth by Hyundai in partnership with NDTV. Welcome back to Samarth by Hyundai in partnership with NDTV. Now, the International Labour Organization suggests that including people with disabilities in the workforce can have a positive impact of about 3 to 7% of the GDP. So these are extremely limited employment opportunities for those with disabilities isn't just hurting them, it is also hurting our economy. Ashwin, I want to ask you here, it isn't just about diversity hiring, we've been discussing that. The office building has to be made accessible, the workforce has to be sensitized, and there have to be avenues for career growth as well. What has been your experience in this regard, and what advice would you like to give other companies to go beyond the hiring to also better a conducive working environment?
So when you talk about career growth and career progression, I strongly believe that it has to be the same for everybody, right? Because when you hire a person, it should be strictly based on the merits and the skill set he or she brings to the table, and uh, so it is also mandatory that the remuneration or the career progression, the rewards are also equally seen, because if a person, if a organization is expecting an employee or a resource to deliver on certain the expectations and deliverables, it is the employee's right also to expect to be treated equally in all terms, right? Be it the social, economic, or any scale that you choose. So I feel, the employers or the organizations should see this as a equal opportunity, feel a level playing field, and it will only, as you rightly mentioned, help the economy grow, because you are talking about at least 2.21% of the world's population that's in India, which are disabled, right? So that's a huge number.
Shalini, I want to ask you here, like what Ashwin said, equal opportunities. Now, hiring should not be actually for empathy and sympathy. Well, it is good for the business. What are your thoughts, if I can ask you, what is your vision for the future of employment when it comes to persons with disabilities, and what are the changes that you would like to see in the coming years?
The changes that I would like to see is accessibility at every rung of the job. I mean, you hire somebody at one role, and then after that what? There has to be a growth graph possible. And so every job in the employment sector, or every job in the industry, has to become more accessible. Now, accessible also means that, for example, in the blind bake or in any cafe, the position should be available for a blind person, a blind chef to go and bake and cook, and also do the billing, and also have an access to the inventory. Unless those jobs are available, unless that software is accessible, the plethora of jobs that are available in the market are not going to be available for the people with disabilities.
Sure.
And so we are closing our gates mostly to just one odd job in the whole office, Yeah. That is not going to help the business in a larger sense. In the larger sense, if you really want the people with disabilities to be able to adopt and contribute to the GDP, please open the market for them.
Yes.
Open the whole floor for them to play, and you will be amazed the kind of skills that they will bring. I mean, I can speak for visually impaired, and I know that it's a USP that they use when they look for a hidden cancer of 5 millimeter in your breast, and a machine cannot find it out. It's only because of the USP of being able to focus and touch and figure it out. Yeah. It's the sense of timing and the sense of smell that helps them in the blind bake. They have skills which are totally unearthed right now, and every disability has skills which are totally unearthed. I mean, look at Ashwin, or look at
Madhu, yeah.
Madam Madhu, we call her.
You just have to find it.
Absolutely, but you have to open your doors for this whole talent to come in and showcase itself.
Madhu, again, one size, the same fit isn't fit for all, right? One size does not fit for all, let me put it that way. People with disabilities should not get disqualified for a job because they're disabled. Yes. Can I ask you some 5 pointers, what you would suggest when it comes to hiring persons with disabilities?
Not just for hiring, ensuring overall inclusion. Yeah, this is applicable, and I would say A, B, C, D, E. Easy for me to remember, so I cover all. Yeah. A, like we've already discussed, accessibility, and accessibility is that of the physical infrastructure and that of the digital infrastructure. What they can do is follow point number B, which is bring people with disabilities on board. Nothing about us without us. And when you bring people with disabilities on board, we have lived experience, and we also have solutions for the challenges we face. C to my mind will be challenge your own mindsets. Challenge, uncover those unconscious biases. D to my mind stands for drive this change top down. Yeah, own it. We have different skill councils. In fact, the leadership team, the senior most leadership team owns different diverse groups. There is a the Council for People with Disabilities, sponsored by a senior leader. And the E is enable. Enable people to grow up the career ladder, and enable them to even take up the senior most positions. Why not? Let's give people jobs based on their skill sets, their potentials, not for their disabilities.
Well, thank you for explaining that really well, the A, B, C, D, E. I think that's really helpful for our viewers watching it, for the employers out there. Thank you so much, Shalini, Madhu, and thank you so much, Ashwin, for joining us. So to really break barriers in the workplace, the hiring mindset has to change. Don't hire a person with a disability because you feel sorry or to fill a quota. Do it because people with disabilities can be just as productive, talented, and capable workers as anyone whose work has worth and value. Not only will this bring economic empowerment and create a more aware and inclusive workforce in general, it is also going to help our country move forward. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Summit by Hyundai in partnership with NDTV.